Hello, Profit First entrepreneurs and thought leaders. I am so excited. Well, we got something different in the making today. We're actually recording this live for our podcast, The Profit Talk, and we have a very special guest with us. We have an author who just released an amazing new book. Her name is Mary Tess Rooney, and she wrote this book called Heart Value. Do you mind raising that up, Mary, so we can all see this amazing book here? And it's a different book that I thought it was really important to bring this to our discussion today because, a lot of times us as entrepreneurs, when we're into what we do and we do what we do, we sometimes lose our calling, right? And we lose that impact and that secret sauce in the world. And today I'm bringing Mary Tesserini on here to talk about really her book, Heart Value, and about creating that alignment between doing what we do that we love to do, right? Meaning that we wake up every day super excited to do it, at the same time making money and profits off of it. So combining those two together. So please join me in welcoming Mary Tesserini to our platform. Hey, Mary Tesserini, how are you?
Oh, thank you so much for a wonderful welcome. I'm so excited to be here with all of you. So thank you. Thank you.
Well, I am so excited to pour into this book. And it's a conversation that I think people are starting to feel, especially with the COVID world, where like we had to go home and they had to really think about what was important to them and what really made them happy.
Yeah.
And I'd like to know, Mary, how did you really come to this idea about this book, this book, Heart Value? Tell us your story behind it.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I worked in corporate America for over 20 years. And in that process, I was really good at overseeing communications and helping other people express their value and stand out and get the credit and recognition that they deserve. And I loved it. And so that was really fulfilling for most of my career. And I worked in sales and training too. So I was always someone who loved learning and loved evolving. And at one point in my career, I just sort of all of a sudden felt a disconnect from my value. Everyone else still appreciated it. I was still getting compensated, very handsomely for my skills and talents and abilities. But I just sort of felt like something was missing and that something else was calling me. And so I started to do a lot of self reflection to say, okay, like if this feels like all of a sudden I need something more or there's a void, like how do I step into that place and figure out what it is? And so in my self discovery, I uncovered what I now call heart value. And so it's interesting in my career, I was very strategic oriented. I led a lot with logic in my brain. And what I realized was missing for me at that juncture of my transformation was that I wasn't as connected to my heart, that I was leading more with my brain. And I really wanted to feel that emotional and energetic connection to the value I was offering. And so I went about this process and I documented my value and then really looked at it on an individual, sort of tangible example, results oriented way to say, okay, when I look at this value that I offer, how does it make me feel? And does it make me proud and give me this warm sense of satisfaction? Or does it make me cringe? Does it no longer serve me? And so I went through and literally analyzed from this heart centered feeling standpoint all of the value that I share with this world. And then I was very connected to the value that I offer that also lights me up. And so I call this process invest in your value vault because to me, that's like we're constantly accruing value and we can secure it in our value vault. And then we get to choose how we decide to step into it and share it with the world. And so that's when I transitioned out of corporate America. And now I am so excited to be able to help other people connect to their heart value so that they can feel appreciated in ways that matter and discover their true stride.
I love that. So first of all, let's define that word heart value. What does it
Yeah.
mean to have heart value? Because, some of us, we've been entrepreneurs for a long time and we've created processes and systems and things like that. What does the word heart value really mean, Mary Tess?
So to me, it literally is the emotional and energetic connection to the value you offer. So, how do you feel? What's that heart centered response to the value that you offer? I'm sure that there are things that you do. Like, I know when you talk about working one on one with clients and helping them be strategic about how they look at their taxes or how like you light up in certain conversations. And so I can see, I'm like, oh my God, she's like energetically and emotionally connected to that offering. And so heart value is really just that awareness that you have of value that lights you up or value that sort of drains you and depletes you. And so what we all want to do is have more heart value that we're excited to share with the world.
Got it. That's interesting. Now, as an entrepreneur, right, there's
Mhm.
depending on your phase, right? There's that startup phase where you are like, you're doing sales, you're doing fulfillment, you're cleaning the
Mhm.
bathrooms, you know.
Yeah.
Everything really depends on you, right? In that startup phase. And some of those tasks may not be aligned with what lights you up. I'll be honest with you, right?
Yeah.
But they're the things
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
have to happen. Trash needs to get taken out, the bathroom needs to be clean, you know. And if you're the one that's gonna do it, if you're a startup, that's just part of that life, right?
Yeah.
And, even as our businesses grow and evolve, right, there's more people to delegate to, but there's still parts of the business that you still may not light you up, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you transition more to being in line with what makes you happy, that heart value?
Yeah. I think a lot of it is just, that big picture game, which a lot of entrepreneurs are very capable of. And, I, the last part of my sort of, uh, what is this thing called after the title? Subject line? I forget what this is called. The subtitle, thank you, is about, discovering your true stride. And part of that to me, because it's like our true stride, we can feel it when we're aligned with it and we can feel it when we're not. And so, yes, to your point, there are things that we're going to have to do that help us gain momentum and connect with our heart value, but we're not always in our true stride, right? We have to discover it each and every step of the way. And, I can tell you that even becoming an author, this muscle was really new for me. So there's a lot of things that were uncomfortable. And I kind of had to sit with it and go, okay, is this something that is not connected to my heart value? Or because I feel resistance, or is this something that is just a new muscle that I have to flex? And there's a lot of things like I don't like looking at my finances on a week by week basis, but I love when I get to work with people who are interested in connecting with their heart value on a day to day basis. And so there's all these trade offs. I don't think we're going to completely eliminate from doing things that necessarily sort of don't align with our heart value. But if the majority of our day or our main focus of what we do is something that lights us up, then whoever we're interacting with will feel it. And then we also feel it by the end of the day. You're like, okay, that was a good day. Or you're excited to get up the next morning and say, all right, I may have these 5 things to do that don't necessarily, get me all pumped. But at the end of that, I get to do what I really love. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense with that. And, let's talk about that transitioning. Let's talk about how do we transition into work that lights us up every day and what that looks like. What are the steps to get into that alignment with doing what we love to do?
So it's different for everyone because, like, you are the expert on you. I am the expert on me. And so everyone sort of has to find their own way. But the tools that I offer in my book are a series of self reflection exercises so that as the expert, as my heart value expert, I can figure out how to pace and carve out my adventure according to my own sort of ambitions or interests or calling. And so the first of those is about investing in your value vault. And in that step, you literally document your value and you can start from, this past year and just say, okay, I just want to do a year in review. What's the value that I offered? And then how did it make me feel? Or when I did this process, I actually had just missed out on an award. So I was trying to figure out, all right, I didn't feel appreciated. And I wanted to figure out why I wasn't feeling appreciated. Was it that I wasn't, expressing my value enough? Or was it that I wasn't connected to the work that lit me up? Or was it that I wasn't surrounding myself with the people that energetically and emotionally saw me and wanted to support my journey. And so in this, invest in your value vault, there's a lot to unpack there. And so you can kind of figure out, okay, do I want to do it a year in review, or do I want to do it? I did my whole, almost my whole career just because I was very curious and trying to self-reflect. But I've worked with a lot of coaching clients that when they do this, they're surprised, like things surprise them, and you're like, oh wow, all right, like I'm awesome at this, but it doesn't light me up anymore. It used to, but now it doesn't. And so what do I do with that information?
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's so easy to, as especially for those that are in a technical field, science fields, mathematic fields, like us accountants, it's very easy to, live a life where we don't live a life of self-reflection, right? Because we get involved with the
Yeah.
doing and we get so sucked up in the doing that we never really go, does it really make you happy at the end of the day? And I think you're absolutely right, Mary Tess. Taking that year in review or lifetime review, as you call it, and going, how is my alignment? Where am I really at right now? Going away, even taking that time out to sit in quiet and go, where am I at right now? How do I really
Yeah.
feel about the different things that I'm experiencing? Something I want to talk about to you, Mary Tess, because these are not easy things to do, right? To step out in your heart
No.
value. And a lot of times it's stepping out into, a world of where we're not comfortable, right? It's going to be potentially leaving a job that you've been with for many years, or
Yeah.
leaving a company that you've started, right? Because you just no longer have a desire to run that company, or changing up your service offerings for something. These are not
Yeah.
easy things to do.
No.
They take a lot of courage. So how do you transition into to doing that and living the life that you really want?
It's not easy. But I think one of the things that sort of helped me and has helped some other people is to really look at, what are our triggers? I mean, obviously, when I left corporate America and decided to go on this journey to become an author and a speaker, I definitely had some, voices in my head like, oh, I got used to a stable paycheck and healthcare benefits. And is this really the right thing for me? And then I had a lot of loving, caring people that were also worried about, okay, well, again, financially, is this the best decision for you? And so one of the things that I sort of worked on was like, this idea of around limiting beliefs. Like, okay, is this something that is just a limiting belief that's preventing me from moving forward? Or is there something concrete in there that I can break down and look at? And most of the things, when I sort of looked at it and reframed it, it's like, you have that limiting belief of, is this the right time? And then it's like, okay, is this ever going to be the right time? I mean, is there an ideal time to lose the stable paycheck? No. But do I want to, lose another year feeling disconnected from my value? No. And so when you have this time to self reflect and look at each limiting belief, then you can make better choices for yourself. So, another tool that I give, I call them striders because my podcast is called True Stride. And so we're striders. And then obviously, heart value. To me, it's about striding towards your heart value. And it doesn't happen overnight, right? We're all on this adventure together and we have to do what's best for us. And it's not going to always be easy, but the more we can look at our limiting beliefs and then feel into that, and then we can, once we feel and understand, like, okay, what is that feeling, and identify it, then we can look at choices and take different action that is aligned with our heart centered feeling state. And so I have this tool called the Feel, Choose, Act Amplifier. And again, it's just about really getting in tune. How do I feel? What are my choices? And then what actions am I going to take? And then figuring out our best path forward.
I love it. And so, Mary Tess, when you think about opportunity costs, right? Because, to step into a new area, you have to give up something, right? The give up to
Yeah.
go up area. And sometimes our value is very difficult to make money on values, right? On
Yeah.
sometimes, our passion isn't necessarily a meeting a market need at this time. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on that, when your heart value and what you like, doesn't necessarily have a market need or monetary demand?
I think some of that is all about audience. I tell a story in the book about one of my friends who was a fabulous speaker, and she offered up this speech that was all about, creativity, innovation. And basically, she was pitching her speech to the sort of IT information systems, you know, area, because she felt like, okay, the Silicon Valley and these folks, tech savvy people, should really like this whole idea around creativity and innovation. And she was not getting financially compensated for it. And so when she really started to like have these moments of, okay, I'm not making the money that I should be making, and I know that I'm delivering value. What's happening here? And do I just abort the speech? Is it the content? Is it me? Is it, she was asking all these different questions. She finally said, you know what? I think that the speech is right. And I think that I'm the right person to do this. And I know it has value. So let me switch the audience and let me see if I'm just communicating with the wrong audience. And so she reached out to people on Facebook, and then she landed this one gig with a sort of marketing CMO. And from there, her total career took off in this crazy trajectory. And so she had this epiphany that, sometimes it's not necessarily us or what we're offering that is a miss and hard to make money off of. But if you're not with an audience that really sees and appreciates the value, then you're sort of knocking um, on doors that aren't going to open for you. And from that one gig, she got like 5 referrals, and it was just this amazing sort of launch. But I think for each of us, we have value, and then we also need to make sure that we're energetically and emotionally connected to the audience, because those are the people that were word of mouth that say, oh my goodness, you have to work with Susanne or Mike or whoever it is. Like, you get excited about it. And so sometimes we have to look at, it's not the values and myths, but who's the audience that it's serving.
I love that. So looking at your talent, what lights you up, and then looking at who needs that talent, right?
Who
And being
needs it?
specific about who you target to, I think back to like, when I first started my business, oh my gosh, like 14 years ago, one of the first things that somebody told me, and they meant really, really well when they told me this,
Yeah.
Mary Cass, really, really well. They said, Suzanne, you need to join the local chamber of commerce. And I remember like, okay, I just started my business. I didn't have much money. That $300 was everything that I had back then, and I
Yeah.
joined this local chamber of commerce. And as soon as I got there, they're like, you know what, you need to be at the networking event. You've got to be at the networking event. And then they told me it was at 7 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. And I had just started my business. I had this brand new little chubby baby girl, like who wasn't like
Yeah.
even like 3 months old. And I had to coordinate babysitter who it's hard to get a babysitter that's there by 6 so you could be at the
It's
chamber of
hard.
commerce by 7. Hard.
Oh,
And
good
and
job.
and I was there and I was like, okay, but I got to do this to grow my business. And I got there and I was there week after week after week. And I had like zero sales, Mary Tess, zero sales. And I literally looked around one day and I said, what's wrong? What's wrong with the
Yeah.
situation? And it hit me. I said, everybody here is a salesperson. They don't even own their own business. They're
Yeah.
salespeople. They're here representing somebody else. And I'm a freaking corporate tax accountant. Okay.
Yeah.
How is this gonna work? And
Yes.
and then I said, what? All right, the sunk cost at $300 for that year. It's time to like not have to at least pay the babysitter anymore. Let us
Yeah.
all sleep in a little bit later. And it was the best move getting out of that room. Not that there was anything wrong with those people. It
Yeah.
was they weren't I was there to sell, and they were all salespeople that didn't even own their own businesses, and I was a corporate tax accountant. So
Yep.
definitely, you got to align your value and what you bring to the market with the right people that are needing that right now. So
Yeah. And
absolutely
honestly,
amazing.
it's true. And even, when before I launched the book, I did an advanced readers, and I had like 22 advanced readers who were awesome and graciously gave feedback. But out of them, 19 were probably sort of like, I'm not sure I really connected with all of it, which is fair too, right? I specifically wanted sort of a diverse pool. So not everyone is going to be aligned with us, and that's okay. Like, I think, save what you said, opportunity cost, like weed out the ones that aren't aligned, and then that gives you more clarity on and time and energy to focus on the ones that do, because that's where that powerful, like symbiotic relationship, you both feed off of each other's your heart value.
So how do you go about finding your tribe then? How do you go about finding the people that need what you offer, that will appreciate what you offer, so that you can continue to do this good in the world that only you can do?
That's a big question, but I think, a lot of it just goes back to, they are the expert on them. I'm the expert on me, you're the expert on you. And I also think a lot of it is trial and error. But the biggest thing that I learned for myself in this adventure, and that the clients that I've worked with, um, being not afraid to cut the ones that aren't the connectors, right? So sometimes, whether it's our ego or whatever it is, it's like, even though a relationship isn't necessarily profitable, or that you feel like they're the right audience, it's like, you're like, well, maybe we can just tweak things. But, you are perfect just the way you are, and your value is definitely, deserving of that heart value relationship. And so just getting really like clear and going like, "Hey, I really like you as a human. You're awesome, and I really wanted to work with you, but it doesn't feel like we have that energetic and emotional connection. Do you agree?" And then, you know, more times than not, because I've used this with different people that I've worked with, they're like, "Yeah, you know what? You're right. Like, let's just be friends." Or so it's all about making those choices and then saying, okay, like, I am committed to finding those heart value relationships that really are going to invest in me and what I have to offer in a way that is fulfilling and profitable, and keep going about that, because the people are out there. We just have to spend the time and not be afraid to let go of the relationships, or I say release them. Like, it doesn't mean you can still be friends with them, but release them if they're not actually the audience that is going to completely invest back in you and all that you offer.
I love that. And it sounds to me, Mary Tess, it starts with just being honest, right? Being
Yeah.
honest with you, who you are and who you're with and what you're surrounding yourself with, and encourage. So honesty, encourage to step out in faith, right?
Yeah.
Even when it's uncomfortable. So where do you see it go wrong with people and their journey for really stepping into where their gifts are, and being able to have a business, that's in line with that. So where does it go wrong in this journey?
So where it went wrong with me, can speak to this directly, is I was a people pleaser. And so, I had gotten really good at different things. And so I was confident and comfortable, and I had an audience that they definitely validated my value. But it took courage, to your point, to what you just said. And it also took sort of honesty to go, okay, so just because they are ecstatic that I'm giving this value to them and I'm making an impact and contributing, it doesn't mean that I have to do it, right? I mean, it's still mine to give. And so taking a hard look and deciding, are you sharing value that, if it doesn't light you up because it pleases others, but sort of makes you feel like dim inside? Or, are you doing it for sort of a temporary? I mean, when I first sort of had that aha moment, it took me probably 5 years before I could financially transition out of corporate America, right? I mean, it's not like I had this epiphany and then was like, okay, I'm going to go do this tomorrow. Like, I had this epiphany and then I was like, all right, so you have some mortgages and you have some financial obligations that you need to sort of taper and manage in order to transition in the way that I wanted to. But the biggest thing for me was people pleasing, and or just looking at the external expectations, or looking to what we just got into habit to. When we first started this conversation, you said, like, better than anyone, like, COVID gave us the gift of total disruption, right? So all of a sudden we started to evaluate everything, and we had time to self-reflect and spend time with our family. And so, did we just get into a pattern of things? And so those are those external influences or obligations or expectations we have on ourselves or that others have, or our need for not disappointing. Like, those are typically the things that you see where people sacrifice their heart value.
Oh yeah, I love what you said there about people pleasing. I'm telling you, people pleasing will lead you to living a life that you don't want to live, right? It will
Yes.
totally lead you to living a life that you don't want to live, trying to please everybody, because, you'll never ever live your own, right? You'll never
Yeah.
live the life that you want to be because, somebody's always going to benefit from you not living the life that you want to live,
Yeah.
right? So very, very true with that. That's
And
a
sometimes
really
it's
great
like
thing.
hard, right? Because we get comfortable, or sometimes when you don't really want to look at it, you're like, man, it's just easier to like do what makes them happy because I don't want to actually think about it myself, you know? So, I mean, it happens all the time. We all fall into that pattern, but there is another choice.
I think sometimes it's easier to live sometimes, depending on where you are in life, under someone else's expectation than to step out on your own because it takes so much courage to do that, right? Because again, somebody always benefits and when you're people pleasing on that.
Yeah.
So you're very right about that. And so, Mary Tess, as we go away today and we wrap up today, if there's one piece of advice that you could leave for our listeners and viewers, what would that one piece of advice be?
The one piece of advice I have is in the book, I talk a lot about going on wise walks with yourself. And so I view a wise walk as an opportunity to slow down, check your reality, and ask yourself questions. And so a wise walk can be, any type of form that you take it. I literally go on wise walks on the beach with myself and I'll kind of go like, okay, like this is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm noticing. Here are some choices that I can make and here are some actions that I can take. But just really slowing down and getting in touch with our heart center is like a huge first step. I have a friend who her version of a wise walk is she knits, right? It's usually something that involves movement and that you can do from muscle memory. Another wise walk that I go when I go on a long drive, I can literally like just really get very present on what my feelings are and then figure out what choices and actions I want to take as a result of those. And so I just recommend everyone, whatever that form of wise walk that you envision for yourself, to really make sure you do it once a day and to check in with yourself and notice your emotional and energetic reactions to not just people but places and things and your value, so that you can be very intentional about the value you offer that lights you up, because you deserve to feel fulfilled, you deserve to have joy in your life, you deserve to have meaningful relationships that connect with you and completely appreciate you on a emotional and financial level. And so find your wise walk.
Thank you, Mary Tess. That's awesome. That sounds like a great idea. Like right after work, go for that walk and just reflect on, just how that day looks like. And I also liked, I mean, one, there's, science about that movement, right? And
Yeah.
and letting those increasing those endorphins by exercise. So that's one thing with that. And I also appreciate what you said that everybody's wise walk looks different. For some of us is journaling. I like journaling at the end of the night and just reflecting that way. You like that too? Yeah.
I do. I
I
love
love
it. I
it.
do. I do morning pages in the morning. I just like to sit and like just again, it's that connection to ourselves and that moment in time where, we deserve to kind of look at, because we're constantly evolving too, right? What the value that lit me up, 5 years from now is probably not going to be, it's not the present day value, and it's not going to be, 5 years from now. So we're constantly evolving and we deserve to reflect and go, all right, I had enough of that. Or yeah, no, love it still and going to keep forging ahead.
Exactly. I'm telling you, like some real golden nuggets comes on that paper, it's like, whoa, I didn't know you had that thought. That was like $1,000 coaching session there.
I love it. I love it. Yes, it's great. Yeah, find your version.
I love it. That is amazing. Mary Tess, it has been absolutely amazing talking to you, getting to know about more about your book, Heart Value. I'm going to go ahead and pop the link. I think actually someone's already popped the link in there for to actually buy the book. So you guys can definitely get it on Amazon. And Mary Tess, how else can we reach you in order to learn more about Heart Value, to get aligned and even work with you?
Yeah. So my website is marytessrooney.com. So you can follow me there. And then also on Instagram and on LinkedIn, it's Mary Tess Rooney, just that. And then I think Facebook has like a one after it. But anyway, you can find me on the social channels. So I'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to email, DM, whatever. I love having conversations about this.
Thank you, Mary Tess. I look forward to a world where everybody can pursue their dream and live a life that makes them happy, right? I think one of the biggest
Yeah.
conversations that I had, was, for me to win, you don't have to lose. We can all win, but we just have to be
Oh,
brave and we have to be honest and we have to be
yes.
courageous in the decisions that we make.
Yes, I love that. That's awesome. Yes, absolutely. So, and you can also listen to my podcast. So, that's the other True Stride
Thank you.
podcast. So,
True Stride Podcast, guys, is Mary Tessa's podcast. Thank you, Mary, for joining us today.
thank you for having me. And I'm wishing everyone a happy day.
Thank you.
See you later.